Hey guys, welcome back. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about collecting old military firearms, but doing so on a budget. Now, a lot of collectors go out and try to find the very best example of a firearm that they possibly can, and it's more of an investment than it is anything else. And I'm guilty of doing that myself. I've done that for many years. That's where I have accumulated all the guns in my collection primarily, and a lot of very nice examples. But a lot of times people don't want to spend $2,000 on something like a C96 Broom Handle that's absolutely mint, that is, you know, extremely rare and documented from World War I and things like that. But you want to enjoy the gun. You want to be able to go out and shoot it. And you can do that. It's just that you're going to take a beating in terms of the quality of the gun, but typically it's just cosmetics. So what we're going to talk about in this video is a C96 that I recently picked up from a local gun shop. This is the gun. It is not a very pretty looking gun, but I checked the gun over at the counter and it was functionally sound. I took it into the range, test fired it because it was a used gun. They let me do that at my local gun shops. And I decided to pick it up, and I picked it up for an extremely good price. So we're going to talk about that this afternoon. We're going to talk about why I chose this handgun and how you can do the exact same thing just by surfing the used gun section of your local gun shops, or even hitting some local gun shows. I found some amazing deals at local gun shows, and I'll show you a real quick deal I found, matter of fact, this weekend at a local gun show, but we'll save that firearm for another video. So let's get started and talk about affordable, collectible, historic firearms. This is another example of stuff you can find at places like gun shows. A gentleman was walking around the gun show. This is an RIC Enfield carbine 303 Brit. We will have a video out there on this rifle because it qualifies for our affordable guns video. And this thing is, like I said, 303 Brit, and a very cool piece of history. More to come on this, sweetheart. Some of you may be asking, why did I choose the C96 Mauser to talk about as a potentially affordable, collectible piece of history to go out and shoot and have some fun with? That's because, well, if you take a look at the handgun, Mauser produced over 1 million of the guns. They're produced in different calibers. Mauser wasn't the only country to produce them. China and Spain also produced them, but Mauser themselves produced 1 million of the guns. Many of those guns are in 7.63 by 25. Some of those would be in 9mm, and there were some other calibers out there that were experimented with. It's also cool to note that the little bottleneck cartridge that it fires was a real hot rod for its era, and it didn't get surpassed in horsepower until around the 1935 or so when the 357 Magnum came out. That's kind of an interesting footnote in history. But the C96 Mauser is one of those guns that, even though there's over 1 million of them out there, if you look for one that's in pristine condition, all matching numbers, original wooden stock, leather frog that goes around the stock, and cleaning rod and all that stuff, you're gonna pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for it. There was a time when I was a kid, these were very affordable, especially ones in condition like this one. That's not the case anymore. Even beat up guns like this one can command a premium price when compared to modern gun prices. I picked this one up for $500, which is a steal, believe it or not, for a Mauser C96. And you'll say, well, gosh, man, I can go out and I can go buy a Glock for that. Why would you do that? Well, keep in mind, a Glock is a modern handgun. This is a piece of history, and some folks like myself, and I know some of you watching this video feel the same way as I do, I'd rather have a piece of history for $500 than the latest and greatest in plastic fantastics. But I still like the plastic fantastics. So the C96 Mauser is a really, really cool piece of history because it came around in the late 1800s. It's a C96, and as often times is used, the nomenclature of the gun represents the year of manufacture or the year of adoption by a military. So 1896 is when this handgun came into being. So it's a very early example of a self-loading pistol using a brass cartridge, a copper-jacketed bullet, and smokeless powder. Keep in mind, around that time period, we were just getting out of black powder, cartridge-based black powder firearms and revolvers and things like that, and moving into smokeless powder. And with the advent of smokeless powder, people like John Browning and Mauser and many other very, very bright individuals started designing self-loading pistols. This is one of the very first, and this is certainly one of the very first pistols that became well known and popular and commonly used. Again, over 1 million of them were produced. Winston Churchill was said to have liked this particular handgun. A lot of British officers would buy these handguns. It's even said that Lawrence of Arabia carried one of these handguns at one point in time. So it's a very iconic piece of military history, and the fact that you can shop around and maybe find them off the beaten path in a gun shop somewhere, maybe in a rural area where the person that owns the gun shop isn't necessarily internet savvy and doesn't know how to get the absolute maximum price for something. That's how Jason and I find a lot of these deals. This one I found at my local gun shop, again for 500 bucks, which is a steal for the little gun, especially because it has a very bright, shiny bore and it's functionally sound. Now the gun is beat up, the bluing's worn off, has nicks and dings in it, the wood's all beat up, big chunks of the wood are missing, but the gun actually has all matching numbers, which I found to be really interesting. Its lanyard's still in place, and you'll notice that it has a stock slot cut in it. And you'll also notice, perhaps if you can see it with the camera, it looks like unit markings or police markings or something right here on the back strap of the pistol. So this handgun has some history to it. What's kind of neat about the C96 is many times, again, guys, you have to be very careful when you're buying collectibles. If you're shopping on Gunbroker and you see, original C96 Mauser with original stock and original leather, the vast majority of the time, you're going to wind up getting an original C96 with a Chinese knockoff stock. So you really have to know what you're looking for if you're going to pay a premium. The nice thing about buying this handgun is it didn't come with a stock. I can go online and buy a stock for it because the BATF says that this handgun can legally be used with a reproduction stock. It's not considered an SBR, so it's on the exemption list, which makes it another really cool reason to own a C96 Mauser. Now this one chambers the 7.63x25, or it's just called 30 Mauser, and it's a bottleneck cartridge, which is really common. If you take a look at the early Lugers, they used a 30 Luger bottleneck cartridge, but also 9mm. This was also chambered in 9mm as well. This gun was used in all sorts of conflicts, from the turn of the century all the way up until World War II. So anyway, let's talk about some of the functions and features of the gun. Now, if you take a look at the pistol, it's very unique. It has an internal 10-round magazine. You will find some with extended magazines that people have put onto them. It has this broom handle type grip. That's where it gets its nickname, the broom handle. This one has its lanyard loop on it. They'll almost always be found with the stock cut, so you can put the stock on the gun. Has a manual safety, exposed hammer. This is your bolt and charging handle. The rear sights are set up as a carbine would be, because again, it was meant to have a wooden stock that acted as a holster for the gun. And with the stock in place, it has sights that increment out to 1,000 meters. Even though the 7.63x25 is a very powerful bottleneck cartridge, 1,000 meters is a bit optimistic, but that tends to be the case for guns of the era. So the C96 is, like I said, exposed hammer. The hammer comes back. You can see the delay and the blowback right there. You can see how it moves rearward together. So this upper half and lower half are separate. They move on rails. And then once it comes fully to the rear, then the bolt is free to move to the rear and cycle. If you look inside of the gun, you can see the follower. And even though it locks open on the last round fired, if you stick your finger in there and push down on the follower, the bolt will snap closed on your finger. A lot of these guns you may have to buy new recoil springs and things for, because keep in mind, these guns are literally 100 years old. This one fires from a stripper clip. So you have that internal 10-round magazine, and you have a stripper clip. This is a Chinese knockoff stripper clip. These things have become quite valuable. Originals will cost you $8 to $10 a piece. You can buy these cheap Chinese knockoffs for around $5 a piece. And they're not very high quality. But the gun has a stripper clip guide in it. You just kind of wiggle it around until it sets in there. And then you can just push. Now keep in mind, guys, the hammer is back, and this is your safety. The safety cannot be turned on at this moment, okay? So keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. I'm pointing it away from Jason, and then you're just going to push the rounds from the stripper clip down into the internal magazine. And then now that all the rounds are seated, you can see them in there. The minute I pull this stripper clip out, the gun charges itself, okay? Now, you're going to say, well, go ahead and put it on safe, Mac. I can't. Now, if I thumb this hammer down carefully, I can put the safety on, and you'll notice that when I do that, it draws the hammer. See how the hammer's resting against the firing pin in the back when I put that safety on? It draws that hammer back away from that firing pin, and the gun can be carried with a round in the chamber with relative safety. It's kind of neat. So charging it is a little bit precarious because you may wind up shooting yourself if you're not careful, keeping your finger off the trigger because you can't put the safety on until the hammer's down. Now the ready gun for firing, you can't do it with the safety on, so I'm going to thumb that safety down, cock the hammer, and now I can fire it. It's a very pleasant handgun to shoot, despite the fact that it is shooting something of a little hot rod caliber. Now you notice the ejection port and extractor is right here on top, and it's throwing those spent cases straight up, and many of them are landed on top of my head. You definitely want to shoot with eye protection on, and not just because we're shooting a challenge target down there that's made out of steel, but because it is throwing brass in the upward position, so it's very easy for it to come back and hit you in the face. I'm going to grab another stripper clip to charge the weapon. Again, point it in a safe direction. Set your stripper clip down in there, and then kind of push on the back of it. I'm going to try not to point it at Jason. All right, pull the stripper clip out. The weapon's going to charge itself. And now I'm going to very carefully, pointing the weapon down range, put the hammer down, put the safety on, and there you go, a safe weapon. Now again, like I said, this gun has a little bit of pitting, a lot of scratches. It's all kind of beat up looking, functions perfectly. You can get replacement springs for them, but this one has all numbers matching. Originally I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to go out and use Copper Custom and re-blue it and refinish the handgun. I've decided against doing that. There's something about just having this old piece of history. Every scratch and ding and pit tells a story about this handgun, especially with those unit markings on the back. I'm going to leave it as is. I enjoy shooting this piece of history just the way it is. So now the safety's on. I'm going to take the safety off. I'm going to cock the weapon and fire these last 10 rounds I have. A lot of fun, guys. So, yeah. I'm going to load it up. I think I'll let Jason shoot it. I don't even know if Jason's fired a C96. Let's find out. So, the question you're going to ask me is, does it use Glock magazines? No, it uses 10-round stripper clips. And how well does it 80s hip fire? Well, that's a good question. But there's something else I ought to tell you. This is Han Solo's blaster. Han fired first.
So I'm going to try Tim's C96 here. Now, I've never fired one of these before, so this will be the first time loading one and shooting. Let's see if I can figure it out. Go. All right, I think we got him in there. All right. Huh. It does have a pretty stout recoil to it. Yep. Look at that all up. Oh man. There's all the fun. Well, I got a couple loose rounds there. I think I got 8. Very stout recoil, but a pleasure to shoot. How cool. Not bad for 500 bucks.
The stripper clips for these handguns can be not necessarily hard to find, but getting good quality ones for a reasonable amount of money can be challenging. Like the stripper clips that I have, I think I picked up from Numerich or Sarco. I think they're from Numerich. They're Chinese knockoffs, and they're of marginal quality. They're not very easy to use. The rounds fall out of them. It is what it is. If you get some of the originals, you can find some that are brass that may work a little bit better, but they're going to be corroded. You can find them on eBay. But sometimes you'll wind up with a pistol like this, you won't have a stripper clip to load it. Now I'm going to show you a very dangerous way to load this handgun. It can be done. So I'm going to have to hold the bolt to the rear because keep in mind the first round I push into that magazine is going to release the bolt and snap my thumb in there, so you don't want to do that. So I'm going to hold the bolt to the rear with this hand. I have my thumb wrapped around the bolt. This is so stupid. But so I'm holding the bolt to the rear with my thumb so it can't go closed. And now I'm just gonna pop rounds into the magazine. If your thumb slips at any point, it's gonna go ahead and chamber around, the gun's gonna be ready to go. That or it's just gonna take a piece of meat off your hand. So that's how you can load it without a stripper clip. Somebody may know an easier way to do it, but yeah, it gets the job done. Very dangerous. And see how my thumb slipped? I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to let the gun go ahead and chamber the round, and the gun's ready to shoot. It does not quite have a full magazine. Only had 6 rounds loaded, and we are using PPU ammunition. A lot of the times you can pick up ammo like PPU and other brands from our friends over at Freedom Munitions. We do have a discount code down below for 6% off. We get no kickbacks from you guys using that code. Yes, Freedom Munitions donates ammunition to the channel, but that has nothing to do with the discount code of 6%. We get no financial kickbacks from if 1,000 people go use it and generate $1 million in sales, which would be a lot of ammunition. We don't make any of that, okay, guys? It's just a thank you for you guys following the channel and watching the videos. I'm going to show you something else that do not do. This is a common mistake. The cartridge I have in my hand is a .30 Mauser. The cartridge I have next to it is a bottleneck cartridge. It looks very much like it, and it's a 7.65 .30 Luger. All right, I'm going to take the .30 Luger and do something dumb. I'm going to put it in the gun and fire it. But I want to show you guys, there's, 7.62 Tokarev, there's, we have the .30 Mauser, the .30 Luger, there's all these bottleneck cartridges out there, and some of them are much hotter than others, and they aren't designed to be used in the particular guns. This is a mistake that happens all the time. Ask me how I know. I accidentally put .30 Luger into my .30 Mauser once. See how it sits in there? Okay, try it one more time. Okay. See that case? See how it's not bottlenecked anymore? That is dangerous. Don't do what I just did. I'm just showing you how easy it is to make that mistake, and people make that mistake all the time. This is what the cartridge should look like after it's fired, the proper .30 Mauser. See how it still has its bottleneck in place? It's a longer cartridge. So be careful, guys, when you're shooting these old guns. These oddball calibers are easily confused, and you can make a mistake and damage your gun or hurt yourself. I hope you guys enjoy videos like this where we come out and just shoot and have a good time, and I show you cool old guns like this old beat up C96 Mauser. I don't know what year this one was made, but it's just a lot of fun to shoot. I just want to let you guys know that you can actually go out there, and if you shop around, you can enjoy some of these old firearms, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Now, it may cost you a little bit of flesh using these stripper clips. It's a little bit challenging at times. Try not to muzzle Jason there while I load this bad boy up. But shooting these things is a lot of fun, guys, and you get a kick out of it. There's just something unique about shooting handguns from the turn of the century, literally some of the earliest automatics ever designed. And that's kind of one of those things that just trips my switch. I love the old firearms, and I really, really love the old early automatic pistols like this. One of my bucket list guns is a Brochart. Don't know what that is? Google it if you can spell it. Let me fire off these 10 rounds here really quick. Now look at that, that's the first time she didn't lock open. I was just getting ready to say, it's amazing how reliable these things are. The gun is empty, I did count 10 shots. But yeah, these guns really are reliable despite the fact that it's 100 years old. And that's the other thing I want to point out. Many times when you're buying these old surplus guns, you're gonna run into bad springs. Spring technology's changed quite a bit between 1900 and 2018. So many times when you're picking these things up, you might want to get them checked out by a competent gunsmith if you don't know what you're doing. You might want to have to replace recoil springs, like take my Type 14 Nambu pistol. It has a Wolf spring kit in it. And yes, companies like Wolf do make new springs. And I recommend you guys change those springs out if you're going to shoot the guns quite a bit, because you can really tear the gun up if it's not properly sprung. One of the guns I want to show you guys, I was going to bring it out today. Actually, it's here, but I'm not shooting it. Is a old 9mm Treaty of Versailles C96 Mauser. It's a very, very rare, very collectible handgun, but the recoil spring's bad and it's really light. I don't want to damage the gun, so we'll save that for another video. But if you guys would like to see more videos like this, or just to support us, we are viewer supported. YouTube doesn't pay us anything anymore, and that's not just gun channels. That's pretty much everybody that makes YouTube content these days. And so we've turned to Patreon. If you come over to Patreon, you can toss us a buck here, there, $5, $10, $20. We have different tier levels. We try to give stuff back to you guys. We have free ammunition giveaways every month. We have free t-shirt giveaways. We give away stuff from the range sessions and things like that from videos that we produce. And you also get behind the scenes information, and you get direct access to me and Jason, the cameraman. Ask us any question you want. We try to answer all the questions. We don't do that on YouTube. We do it on Patreon. So another way to support us is to swing by and check us out at Copper Custom. Copper Custom is our online store. We have a new auction site. As we're recording this right now from our Glock 19X video, that handgun is up on the auction site for the next few days. And you can actually, and yes, those are sandhill cranes, you can actually buy that handgun that was used in the production of the video. We're going to try to continue to do that for you guys out there, so you can have access to some of the stuff that we shoot out here and have some fun with. All right, now, let's see if it's going to lock itself open this time. I got a couple more stripper clips here. This PPU ammunition seems to be reliable. Gun's definitely working pretty good. There we go. She locked open. It's not so bad. Uh-oh. I think I lost one to my homies in the pocket. My 10-round stripper clip, these cheap Chinese stripper clips, just shed around in my pocket. But you should still be able to load the gun. Boy, those sandhill cranes are loud today. Look at that. See, works just fine with 9 rounds. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all those years of support. We are celebrating our 10th year anniversary, 2008 to 2018. 10 years. We couldn't have done it without you guys. Thanks for watching. Again, thank you for all those years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon. I'm just going to have to Han Solo this, guys. I think I already mentioned Han did fire first. Seriously. That whole re-edit, what were they thinking? Let's see if the FBI crouch works. If I take my time with those last two, it worked. But Han was a lot closer, guys. He was sitting across the table from Guido. You probably don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you do. Everybody's a Star Wars fan, right?
Over my dead body.
Uchleniuma. Česko kututa Krista Krenko. Jak Oscar.
Yes, I bet you have.